program
This
should do
conference
is,
will now be recorded.
what the program should do is, when the program is running, it should ask me what is the Docker image. See, what is the command you give in Docker? Docker run, you give the image name, you give detached mode, you give port mapping, etc., etc. If a person does not know Docker, I just want to create an interactive program. The program, when you execute it, it'll ask me, tell me which image you want. This fellow will say Tomcat. Then it should ask, what should be the container name? Give some container name. What should be the port mapping? Do you want to run in detached mode or not? So interactively, it should take each and every input. Whatever input he is giving, based on that, it should start that particular. Okay, that's what we want to do. So please see this. I'll call this program as sample.py. And as always, the first one is import subprocess. And then I will say, I'll create a variable called image equals to input. Enter image name. Don't you think image name will be captured in a variable called image? Similarly, container name, I will store in a variable called as container. Input, enter container name. So the container name is also getting captured. Then we want to talk about the ports. Input, enter. If you feel port mapping is unnecessary headache, you give capital P. Don't ask port mapping. The next one is detach. Input. Do you want to run in detached mode? He can give the answer as yes or no. Okay, that's it. This is the answer that we accept. Finish. This is the program. What happened? Okay, close it. Finish. So these are the 4 variables we are accepting. If he is giving the answer as yes, so I will say if detach equal to yes, then what should I do? Subprocess dot call. What is the command we want to execute? Docker run -d, because detached mode he is telling you to run -- name. The name is coming from a variable called as container. Variables, depending on the kind of variable, if it's a numerical data which is coming, we call this as format specifiers. If it's a numerical data, we call it as %d. String data, we call it as %s. So here I will simply give %s. So your program understands that here you are supposed to give some string data. What is that string data? We'll decide in a few minutes. Similarly, -p, this also has string data. And then the name of the image, that is also %s. Now, once all this is given, you close this, and here you give % symbol and you specify what are the variables. What is the first variable we are using? It's coming from a variable called as container. So just give container. After that, what is the next variable that we are trying to use? Second one is ports. And what is the third one? Image. Finish. And now you say shell is equals to true. This is the code.
So the first %s is for the containers.
Just let me show you. Tell me.
So the first %s is for the containers.
The first %s is for the container. Yes.
Then
the second %s is ports. So after P you have given, no? So it's for ports. So I gave the second variable as ports. The third %s is obviously image name, right? Once it is over, I will come to the else part. I'll say elif. Close చేయలేదు నాకు అదే డౌట్ గా ఉంది. No, shell equals to true తర్వాత క్లోజ్ చేసాము. That's what you know, the colors were here. Where did this bracket come from? Antena? Now you see, this is the original starting and this is the ending. In between, For declaring the variables, you have created one more stuff. Okay, finish. Else, if detach equal to what? No. Then what is the, sorry, if detach equals to no, what should you do? Again, the same thing. Subprocess dot call. Now the command is docker run, but I should not give -d option. Okay, but we will say hyphen name. It is coming from a string variable, so we'll say %s -p. This is also a string variable. Then image name. So again, this is also %s. Once this is over, now you give, sorry, once this is over, you give percentage and specify the variables. The first one is container, ports, and the last one is image. And you want to run all of them as shell commands. So we will say shell is equals to true. Finish. Now I will give the last part. Else. Why are we giving one more else condition? If this fellow is not entering yes or no, but he's entering all right, then what should I do? Something else we have to give, right? So I'll say print invalid option. Okay, finish. Now, once the program is over, see what we can do with this. I will first, I'll say, what is the name of the program? Python 3 sample.py. Say this, enter image name. I will say image name should be Nginx. Container name, shall we call it as web server? Port mapping, I will link 9090 with, what is the container port of Nginx? 80, I'll give that. Do you want to run in detached mode? I will say, yes, I want to run it in detached mode. You see the container has started. Docker container ls shows that Nginx container is running. The name of the container is web server. The main advantage of this program is he can use it repeatedly multiple times. This time he will say, I want to start a HTTPD container. The container name should be, let's say, app server. Port mapping is 777 linked with 80. Do you want to run in detached mode? Yes, I want to run in detached mode. Now you can see that one more container. One program, reusability. I can just pass it on to people who don't know Docker. Interactively, they are able to take the steps and they can create it. Now, if someone enters some weird option, say this time I will say, I would like to work on Tomcat. Container name is A. Port mapping is 778 linked with 80. But do you want to run in yes or no? That fellow is entering A. What is it saying? Invalid option. That's it. I hope you are understanding. Okay, take it down. Create a interactive Python program. Create an interactive Python program which accepts the name of the image. Create an interactive Python program. Create an interactive Python program which accepts the name of the image container, ports, etc. And creates Docker containers. Finish. Finish. Fine. The next program is I want to start, let's say, 100 Nginx containers. What will you do? Docker run Nginx, Docker run Nginx. That command 100 times I have to give. Rather than that, a simple Python program will be able to handle that. Okay, so say this. I'll call this as, again, the same thing. Import subprocess, and here I will take the variable as I equals to 1. If I give 100 containers, our AWS instances will go into meditation. So we'll give I equals to 10. 10 containers will start. Okay, and we will say subprocess dot call. Which container are you trying to create? Nginx container, right? So we will say docker run Nginx and give the arguments like hyphen hyphen name. I want the name of the containers to be n1, n2, n3 like that. So I will say n. Can I say that this I is an integer element? It's an integer element. That integer element I want to replace here. So the format specifier we use is percentage D. D is for integers, S is for strings, F is for double values, floating values, etc. I want to run this in detached mode. I want to perform automatic port mapping. And here you give percentage. It's coming from a variable called as I. What is the next argument? Just a second. This percentage D is a number. From where that number is coming? It's coming from a variable called I. What is I for the first iteration? 1. So the container name will be N1. For the second iteration, I value becomes how much? 2. So container name becomes 2. Like that, 10 containers we are expecting. Okay. First of all, I'll delete all the existing containers. Python 3, we have a program called delete.py, right? Good. Now, what was the name of the program? Sample1.py. You see, 10 containers are getting created. You can give 100 also, 1000 also, provided your AWS instance supports. Now you say Docker. Do you see? N1 container was created 14 seconds back. Then it created N2 container. Then it created N3. Like that, all N10 containers got created. All of them are Nginx containers. Automatic port mapping is automatically happening. 80 is linked with different ports. Okay, take down.
So suppose if you were to give our own customized name
for the containers, that's what, some kind of convention should be there. If you want, there's another solution. You store all the 10 different names in a list. You create a list object, array object. You store all the 10 different names using the loop. One after that, you pick up the names, or you store them in a file. We know how to read data from a file. From a file, you read all the names and you add it. Okay, take it down. Python program for Linux logo awesome. Python program for deleting multiple Nginx containers. For creating multiple Nginx containers.
ఈ ప్రాసెస్ సబ్ ప్రాసెస్ ఇట్లాంటివి మనకి ఎక్కడ
Google search what is the method, I mean what is the module which can be used for automating Docker, what is the module which can be used for automating Jenkins. You search it, and in that which methods they are using, little bit of R&D we have to do and start using
సబ్
it.
ప్రాసెస్ only is for the Docker.
Sub process is for Docker and most of the Linux related commands. For Jenkins there is something else.
So here this percentage I will increment the value and add that to percentage D. So here.
Absolutely. This percentage D, simply it understands that it's a number. From where it is picking up that number? It is picking up that number from this variable called I.
Okay. Can I concatenate with string also, sir? Here instead of 1, 2, 3, I want to add some string to before to that.
In the sense where?
That Nginx, it is coming as N1, N2, right? I want to say Nginx N1, Nginx N2, like that.
You can just give that complete name over here. If you want Nginx N1 and all that, the name of the container itself I'll give as Nginx.
Yeah, here only.
Yeah. Nginx N. Now it will be N1, N2, N3 like that.
Okay, sir.
Finish. Yes, sir. It's still at very basic levels, very basic levels. I mean, you can create some programs which is helping your Docker engineers or Jenkins engineers to work on Python. It's considered as a very good stuff. Very few people do it, So it's an added advantage if you can talk about these kind of scenarios when you go for interviews. Fine, I'll show you one more thing. All of us know there is a concept in Docker called as Docker Compose. What is the purpose of Docker Compose? To create a multi-container architecture. The problem that most of you faced with Docker Compose was YAML. YAML, if you are finding it difficult, the spaces and all that headache you are feeling, I can create a simple Python program which will do the same activity. What is the purpose of Docker Compose? I can create link between multiple containers using the regular -- link option also. But the problem is multiple commands you have to give. Whenever you want to set up the environment, again, all the multiple commands I have to give. The same multiple commands you put in single Python script, you call that Python script, it will do the same multi-container architecture creation. Let me show you. I will call this program as sample2 dot. Yeah, that's what. You just tell these scenarios. Why it's saying no such file? Okay, fine. They won't. You just talk about these scenarios. If you are comfortable with this kind of coding, put it. You're finding this very difficult, just leave all this stuff. Okay. Anyhow, we are calling our program as sample2.py. Let me show you. Again, the same thing. We will say import sub process, and now I will say sub process dot call. What are we trying to do? I want to start a MySQL container and link it with a WordPress container, how we have done. So what is the command you give? Docker run MySQL, you specify the version, and we also say shell is equals to true. The run command options that you give for MySQL are the name of the container, which I'll give as mydb, detached mode, environment variable. What is that? MySQL underscore root underscore password, and I want my password to be something like this. Okay, finish. So with this command, all of us know that it will start a MySQL container, right? Now the next command I want to give is subprocess dot call. Now I will say docker run WordPress, and we will say shell is equals to true. And here the options we provide are name is equals to my WordPress -d, let's say -P, link. You want to link it with which container? MyDB, alias is MySQL. So regular Docker run commands only, nothing special. But we are putting both these program commands in a single script. Once the script is created, the same reusability that Docker Compose was promising, we can get that. Because what is the name of the program? Sample2.py. Whenever this multi-container architecture has to be created, don't worry about the Docker commands. Simply say Python 3 sample2.py. The multi-container architecture gets created. So the common ways using Docker Compose, but otherwise you can say through Python programs also, we can create an alternative way for handling this. So now if you give the command docker container ls, okay, forget these Nginx containers. You can see that there is a WordPress container and also a MySQL container up and running. Okay, take it down. Put the heading as alternative for Docker Compose. Alternative for Docker Compose. Docker file call change. Entry point cannot be given in a Python program. You create a Docker file where there is entry point. That Docker file I will directly call in my Python program. I'll create an image and create a container. Okay, take it down. Create a Python program for setting up. Create a Python program for setting up a dev environment. Create a Python program for setting up a dev environment. For setting up a dev environment where a WordPress container where a WordPress container should be linked with a MySQL container. Where a WordPress container should be linked with a MySQL container. Copy that program.
Sir, if the interviewer asks like what is the difference between this YAML and this Python program, what makes the difference like that?
No. YAML is much more better, Nagesh. Always creating through YAML has more advantages. This is a simpler way of handling things. Imagine that you people don't know Docker Compose and still you want to create a multi-container architecture. A Python program will do. But the YAML files have more advantages. More advantages in the sense, imagine that you are implementing Docker Swarm in your company, where in the Docker Swarm you want to create the multi-container architecture. These kind of Python programs will not help you. Docker Compose is mandatory. A simple architecture, a development environment or a testing environment you want to create, fine. You can do it with Docker Compose or with the Python program. But you are trying to implement that into a cluster like Swarm or Kubernetes. These programs will not help you. Docker Compose is mandatory.
Compose mandatory.
Now I will stop the class by giving you an assignment. Okay, just try to do this. All of you know how to delete all containers. Docker rm-f command is doing. Imagine a scenario, there are 100 containers already running. Out of those 100 containers, I want to selectively delete only the Tomcat containers. Only Tomcat containers. Create a Python program for that. Only Tomcat containers should be deleted. Tomcat containers, imagine out of these 125 containers are Tomcat. So my Python program should pick up only those 25 Tomcat containers. It should delete them. It should not touch. These were interview questions. Okay, you can't directly do it through Docker. You have to take the help of some kind of scripting, shell scripting or Python scripting, something like that. So that was the question they asked. Hundreds of containers are there. There is no direct Docker command to delete only Tomcat containers. So still, I want my Python program to selectively pick up only those Tomcat containers and delete it. Okay, we'll stop the session. We'll continue later. Thank you. Yeah. Write it and show it to me. What you will do. If conditional loop, what do you want to do? You just do it. Come up with the solution. Sujit, is this complete use of Python with Docker? Almost. Whatever are the shortcomings of Docker, we will try to overcome that through Python. I mean, it's not yet over. We have some more examples that I'll show you. But yes, that's what we need to do. First of all, identify what are the shortcomings of Docker, how you can solve it through automation program. We'll try to understand. That's it. Okay, I'll stop the session anyhow. Thank you.